Now for our regular Sunday political debate, and going head-to-head tonight, Defence Materiel Minister Jason Clare, who's at the ALP conference at Darling Harbour in Sydney, and Shadow Immigration Minister Scott Morrison, who joins us in the Network 10 newsroom.
Welcome to you both.
G'day.
G'day, Tash. G'day, mate.
First to you, Jason Clare, if I could please, on the issue of uranium sales to India. How do you go about justifying selling to a nation which hasn't yet signed the non-proliferation treaty? If I could get that out.
It's a long word. Matt, India's now agreed to put itself under the International Atomic Energy Agency as well as the Nuclear Suppliers Group. That means that it's agreed to inspections, it's agreed to separate its civil and its military use of uranium, and it's also agreed to not get involved in nuclear testing. So it's agreed to effectively the same as that regime, which means that we're now confident that the time is right to make this decision. It's good for jobs in Australia, it's good for the economy, and it's good for our relationship with the biggest democracy in the world and a rising superpower in our region.
Mr Morrison, if I can put it to you, we've heard the argument there. It's great for jobs, great for the economy, but there are serious concerns even within the Labor Party. We saw Doug Cameron saying, Prime Minister, you've got it wrong. We even saw Peter Garrett seriously concerned and saying he was disappointed, wanting stringent safeguards.
Well, we think it's the right policy and always have. It's the Labor Party that's flipped and flopped on this issue. They've basically just corrected the policy mistake they made several years ago under Kevin Rudd. But what I think it has also highlighted once again is the division in the Labor Party ranks. I mean, today we had cabinet ministers opposed to prime ministers on a very serious issue of policy, and it's highlighted what we've seen all weekend in this conference, and that is a deeply divided party on many issues, and a party very distracted onto issues that frankly just aren't the top topic on the kitchen tables of Australians.
Mr Clare, you were the spokesman for the Labor Party at the National Conference. Be honest, how much of it was a true contest of ideas and how much of this was just staged, I guess, in effect, to give Julia Gillard a couple of wins?
Well, Matt, the Prime Minister said she wanted a real conference with real debates, and we certainly had it. I had a little bit of a look at how many votes we had. I think we've had more votes at this conference than we've had in the last 10, maybe the last 15 years of conferences. So real policy debates here, debating important issues like the economy, like education, like climate change, as well as the commitment to introduce a national disability insurance scheme. You wouldn't get that in Scott's party. At a Liberal Party conference, you'd have Tony Abbott, he'd get up and say no, Jason. Scott would agree, and they'd all go home.
Look,
it's true, mate.
What we saw over the last couple of days is a party, as I said, which has been deeply divided, and if it was the intent to tell the entire country that the most pressing issue in the country was gay marriage, well, they've succeeded in that. I mean, that's what this conference will be remembered for. A party focused on issues that aren't the main topic of concern of Australian families, rising costs of living, pressures on our national economy, issues of asylum seekers and the government's failures, and all we've seen was a party obsessed with itself and the faceless men and women of the Labor Party. It's going true to form, as we've always seen, Jason. And
that's a little bit rich, Scott.
Well,
I know you're a good mate of mine, but you're talking about division. You've got people in the Liberal Party that are quitting the Liberal Party to go and become Speaker. So you want to talk about division? It's on show for everyone
Jason,
to see in the Parliament with your mates in the Liberal Party.
Kevin Rudd was up there doing his job application again this afternoon, and I saw that he was getting right into it. I mean, given that Julia Gillard completely airbrushed him from history in what I thought was a very, very weak speech. I mean, the Prime Minister is becoming more superficial and cosmetic on issues now with her British minder to try and polish over all the policy failures we've seen from this government. And what we've seen again over the entire weekend is more spin from the Labor Party and completely out of touch with the issues that Australians are concerned about.
I'll say one thing on this one, mate. We're good mates. You know what the most important thing is in Bankstown and Cronulla? It's jobs. And we've created 750,000 jobs in the last 4 years when millions of jobs were lost in America and Europe. That's the most important thing as people sit down for dinner tonight. They want to make sure they've got a job.
That's not what you were talking about at the conference.
They've got a job in Australia, mate, because we made the decision to vote to make sure we didn't go into recession, and your blokes on the other side decided to vote against it, would have put us in recession.
Well, Jason, you're going to need to come out from outside the bubble, mate, when it comes to these sorts of issues. I think when people have looked at this conference over the weekend, they'll just be scratching their heads saying, who's running this show and what is their set of priorities? And they'll be scratching their head for some time to come.
Jason, if I can put it to you, talking about issues that matter, jobs, you've just mentioned that all there. I tell you, a lot of Australians were a bit furious this week when we saw the Prime Minister receive a $94,000 wage increase. Now, most Australians, that's what they're on for a whole year, considering the economic climate. Some may argue politicians aren't doing a good job. How can you justify this?
Well, I think that's a little bit inaccurate to say that the Prime Minister or Scott and I have got a pay rise. We're waiting for a report called from the Remuneration Tribunal. There's a decision that was made that the politicians shouldn't decide how much we get paid, a tribunal should. There's speculation about what this report's going to say, but we haven't seen it come out yet. I think Scott and I will probably agree on this one. We both did jobs before we became politicians that paid us more than what we get paid now as politicians, and it's up to the tribunal to decide how much they think we're worth.
So if the tribunal says a wage increase, you'll say no thanks?
No, the decision has been made, and it was made in Parliament, I think around about 6 months ago, that whatever the tribunal decides, the Parliament will agree with. But really, when you get involved in politics representing people, it's not about how much you get paid, it's about the things that you can do that make a difference, and it's about jobs. It's about trying to make sure that people have got the money on the table to pay for the things that they're eating at home tonight.
Unfortunately, both we are out of time. Thank you both, though, Jason Clare and Scott Morrison. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very
Cheers.
much. See you, Jason.
Thanks, Scott. Cheers, mate.
A mystery Californian man has launched